Have you ever felt the sudden need to explain why you didn't reply to a text immediately? Maybe you find yourself making up a long story just to say no to a simple invitation. We do this all the time, completely unaware of the hidden cost. You might think that giving detailed explanations makes you polite or considerate, but what if this constant need to explain is actually a deep psychological trap? Modern life tells us that communication is the key to healthy relationships. We are taught to be open, clear, and always ready to justify our actions. However, constantly defending your choices can leave you feeling emotionally exhausted. It drains your energy and secretly chips away at your confidence. Famous psychologist Carl Jung noticed this pattern a long time ago. He saw that many people live in a state of invisible submission. They are terrified of being misunderstood by their friends, family, or even strangers. This fear forces them to present an argument for every single feeling they have. Understanding why we do this is the first step toward real freedom. Let's look at the hidden reasons behind your urge to over-explain. To understand over-explaining, we need to look at how we seek validation. Validation is simply the feeling of being accepted and understood by others. As children, we naturally look to adults to validate our feelings, but sometimes those adults accidentally brush our feelings aside. Imagine a child who is crying because they lost a toy. If an adult says to stop crying over a silly toy, the child feels invalidated. The child learns a very dangerous, silent lesson from this interaction. They learn that their natural emotions are somehow wrong or unacceptable. To survive and feel safe, the child starts to create logical reasons for their feelings. They begin to think that if they explain everything, maybe they will not be rejected. This childhood habit follows us right into adulthood without us noticing. We become adults who are terrified of simply existing with our feelings. We feel like we need permission to be sad, angry, or even happy. Every time you over-explain, you are basically begging for permission to feel a certain way. This creates a cycle where your self-worth depends entirely on other people's approval. Carl Jung called this a state of losing your internal authority. Internal authority means trusting your own experiences without needing anyone else to agree. When you lack internal authority, you become a prisoner to external opinions. You start living your life to avoid judgment instead of pursuing your own joy. You might even laugh at jokes you do not find funny just to fit in. Over time, this constant acting causes a deep split inside your mind. You lose touch with your true self because you are too busy playing a character. This character is designed to be perfectly understandable and totally harmless. But playing this character is incredibly tiring and slowly destroys your mental health. It leads to chronic anxiety because you are always anticipating how others will react. It leads to low self-esteem because you never stand up for your true thoughts. You become a supporting actor in the movie of your own life. Jung believed that growing up psychologically means taking back the leading role. This process of becoming your true self is called individuation. Individuation requires you to build a strong wall of internal authority. It means looking inward for approval rather than outward. You have to realize that your feelings are valid just because you feel them. They do not need a logical argument to be real. If you are tired, you are allowed to rest without writing a medical report. If you do not want to attend a party, your lack of desire is a complete and valid reason. Reclaiming this power is uncomfortable at first, especially if you are used to pleasing everyone. You will feel a strong, panicky urge to fill the silence with excuses. Your brain will scream that people will hate you if you do not explain yourself. But this discomfort is actually the feeling of your inner strength growing. True psychological freedom starts the moment you tolerate that awkward silence. Silence becomes your ultimate shield against emotional manipulation. People who want to control you rely on your desperate need to explain. When you stop giving them explanations, you cut off their power supply completely. You suddenly become immovable, like a mountain standing firm in a storm. This shift in energy changes everything about how the world treats you. You stop broadcasting weakness and start radiating quiet confidence. Your internal authority becomes a magnetic force that commands natural respect. Let's explore how this looks when you apply it to everyday situations. Let's break down some common traps and how to avoid them. Understanding the difference between healthy communication and toxic over-explaining is crucial. We need to look at real-life examples to make this clear. You might be confusing a simple boundary with a complex negotiation. Remember, a boundary is a rule you set for yourself, not a debate topic. When you debate your boundaries, you invite others to cross them. True confidence is quiet, while insecurity is always loud and talkative. Let's look at a classic example of this trap in the workplace. Imagine your boss asks you to work late on a Friday evening. If you lack internal authority, you might make up a long story about a sick relative. You give them a million reasons, hoping they will accept your refusal. This gives your boss the chance to solve your fake problems so you can still work. They might offer to pay for a taxi or send soup to your relative. Now you are trapped in a negotiation you never wanted to have. Many people mistakenly believe that short answers are rude or aggressive. This is a massive misunderstanding of how human respect actually works. Being brief and polite is not rude. It is a sign of deep self-respect. An honest, simple statement that you are not available tonight is incredibly powerful. It leaves no room for debate and clearly states your position. Another common mistake is thinking you must explain your sadness to your partner. You might feel down for no specific reason, and that is perfectly normal human behavior. You do not need to invent a logical story just to justify a passing mood. So, how can you practice this new power in your daily life? Start by catching yourself right before you launch into a long excuse. When someone asks you to do something you dislike, take a deep breath. Practice saying the word no as a complete sentence without adding the word because. If you decide to cancel plans, simply state that you need a quiet night in. Notice the anxiety that rises in your chest when you leave the silence hanging. Do not run away from that anxiety. Just sit with it and watch it fade. Over time, you will realize that the sky does not fall when you stop explaining. In fact, you will notice that people start treating your boundaries with much more respect. You will attract healthier friends who value you for who you are, not for how useful you are. Constantly justifying your existence is a tiring habit born from childhood fears. It is a sign that you are looking for outside permission to live your own life. Carl Jung taught us that breaking this habit is essential for finding our true selves. By building internal authority, you learn to trust your own experiences completely. You realize that your feelings and choices are valid without needing an audience's applause. The next time you feel the panic of an unanswered text message, just pause. Remember that you do not owe the world an essay about your whereabouts. Let the silence do the heavy lifting while you protect your inner peace. Embrace the quiet strength that comes from simply being yourself without apologies. What is one area of your life where you can stop over-explaining today?